My dear friends in Christ, my fellow students on the path, it is a joy to be with you, not as a speaker to an audience, but as one consciousness to another, gathered here to entertain a single, revolutionary idea. We come together tonight to consider a principle so profound it appears as a paradox to the human mind. We are here to explore why your most fervent efforts to heal your body, to secure your supply, or to mend your relationships have so often ended in exhaustion and disappointment. We have been taught that to overcome a problem, we must try harder, fight stronger, and do more. But I am here to reveal to you that this very effort, this relentless trying, is the very barrier that stands between you and the harmony you seek. The world says, strive, struggle, and fix. The infinite invisible whispers, be still, and know that I am God. We spend our lives trying to rearrange the shadows on the wall, believing that if we just adjust them correctly, we will find peace. But the teaching of the Christ, as illuminated for us in the work of Goldsmith, does not ask us to adjust the shadows. It asks us to turn and face the light, which is their sole source. This is not a teaching of doing, but a teaching of yielding. It is not a method for human accomplishment, but a surrender to divine accomplishment. Tonight, we shall lay aside the burdensome toolkit of the personal ego. We shall put down the hammer and nails with which we have been trying to build our own kingdom. And we shall ask ourselves one startling question. What if your life is not a problem to be solved, but a presence to be experienced? If the very thought of laying down that heavy burden brings you a sense of relief, then you are already feeling the touch of grace. Stay with this. Go deeper with me. For what we are about to explore is not a theory, but a living truth that, when realized, will reorder your entire existence from the inside out. And if this message resonates with the truth within you, if you feel the stirring that this is more than just words, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to this channel for more of these shared unfoldments, and in the comments below simply type the number 714. Let that number be our silent, symbolic agreement that we are ready to stop trying and start knowing. Of course, here is the expansion of your first keynote, continuing directly from the flow of the introduction and maintaining the Goldsmith style. We have been conditioned, since our earliest days, to see life as a series of problems awaiting our solutions. A sickness arrives, and we marshal our resources to fight it. A financial lack appears, and we redouble our efforts to think, plan, and strive our way out of it. A relationship fractures, and we apply all our psychological and emotional energy to mend it. This is the universal doctrine of the world. Identify the error and apply a human force to correct it. We have become spiritual mechanics, perpetually hunched over the engine of our experience, trying to adjust, tighten, and replace the broken parts, convinced that with the right tool and the right technique, we can make it run smoothly. We have become, in essence, professional fixers of our own lives. But what is the true source of this frantic activity? It originates in the profound, often unexamined, belief that we are separate from the source of our own being. The personal sense of I, the ego, has appointed itself manager of a universe it never created. It believes that without its constant vigilance, its scheming, its worrying, and its effort, everything will fall into ruin. So it tries. Oh, how it tries! It tries to secure what it fears it can lose. It tries to heal what it believes should not be broken. It tries to control a tide of events that stretches far beyond the horizon of its own limited understanding. This fixer is an imposter, a usurper sitting on a throne that does not belong to it, wearing a crown of thorns of its own making. And what is the fruit of all this labor? Examine your own experience. You will find a harvest of exhaustion, frustration, and a deep, lingering sense of inadequacy. For every problem you seem to solve, two more appear in its place. You patch one leak in the roof, only to find a crack in the foundation. You achieve a hard-won peace in one area of your life, only to see conflict erupt in another. This is not a sign of your failure, It is divine evidence that you are using the wrong instrument. You are trying to paint a masterpiece with a broom. The trying itself, this relentless application of human will, is the confirmation of the separation. It is the very activity that perpetuates the sense of a self here and a problem out there, and the vast gulf between them that must be bridged by sheer effort. The great secret, the revolutionary truth we must dare to consider, is that this fixer is the problem it is trying to solve. Its very existence is the noise that drowns out the harmony. Its frantic motion is the turbulence that obscures the ever-present stillness. The moment you take up the tools to fix your life, you have already affirmed the reality of the brokenness. You have accepted the picture presented by the senses as the ultimate reality, and you have turned away from the only power that can truly restore, renew, and reveal the perfection that has never been absent. This is why your life does not change through trying. It changes when you see that the you that is trying is the central illusion, the entire structure of the problem, the broken thing, the one who fixes it, and the act of repair is a single, unified mirage. To try is to validate the mirage. Our work, then, is not to try better, but to see through the trier completely. And so we come to the core of the dilemma, the very engine of this ceaseless struggle, the personal ego. This sense of a solitary I, this mental construct that claims authorship of our thoughts, owner of our feelings, and director of our destiny, is the barrier it seeks to overcome. It is like a character in a play believing it must write its own lines, design its own lighting, and manage the audience's reaction, all while forgetting it is merely an expression of the playwright's will. The ego is that character, convinced of its own autonomy and terrified of the silence that would come if it stopped its performance. It does not know that its existence is contingent upon the narrative. It believes it is the narrative. This I is a collection of memories, reactions, conditioned responses, and acquired opinions. It has no substance of its own. It is a shadow, a reflection. Yet we have given it the keys to the kingdom. We have allowed this phantom self to be the arbiter of our reality, the interpreter of our experience. It looks out upon the world and immediately divides it into that which supports its story and that which threatens it. A healing is a victory for the ego. A sickness is a personal affront. Abundance is its rightful due. Lack is a failure of its strategy. It cannot perceive anything without first filtering it through this lens of for me or against me. Its entire existence is a project of self-preservation and self-aggrandizement, and its primary tool for this project is the very trying we have been discussing. When you set out to fix your life, who is it that is undertaking this project? It is this same ego. It is the shadow attempting to fix another shadow. It is a character in the dream trying to rearrange the furniture of the dream. The moment you declare, "I must fix this," you have already reinforced the central illusion, the I, that is separate from the ethos. You have strengthened the very sense of identity that is the root of the perceived problem. The ego, in its attempt to solve the problem of separation, is actually the activity of separation itself. Its efforts are not merely futile, they are counterproductive. They are like a man in a dark room, frantically swinging a sword at the darkness, believing he is fighting his enemy, when his true need is simply to let in the light. This is why all self-improvement, when driven by the ego, has a hollow ring. It is the self, based on a misconception, trying to build a better version of that misconception. You may polish the surface, you may rearrange the internal furniture, but the fundamental architecture of separation remains untouched. The ego's solutions are merely new configurations of the problem. It seeks peace as a possession, joy as an achievement, and God as an object of its search. But the peace of God is not an object to be acquired. It is the very ground of our being from which the ego's noise has distracted us. The ego is the cloud that obscures the sun, not by being a substantive thing in itself, but by creating the appearance of a barrier. Our work is not to fight the cloud, but to recognize its insubstantial nature and to shift our attention back to the sun, which has been shining all along. This recognition of the ego's futile activity is not a call to a deeper, more subtle form of struggle. It does not mean we must now try to destroy the ego, for that would simply be the ego once again taking up arms against itself in a cosmic civil war that can have no victor. No, the revelation here is far more profound, far more gentle. It is the call to a radical and total surrender. Now, to the world and to the ego itself, surrender sounds like defeat. It conjures images of laying down your arms, of giving up, of admitting failure. But in the spiritual realm, in the economy of God, surrender is not capitulation. It is the ultimate alignment. It is the conscious and deliberate decision to stop rowing against the current of the river, not to drown, but to allow the river itself to carry you. It is the relinquishment of the isolated, personal will in favor of the infinite, harmonious will of the Father. This is the great pivot point in the entire spiritual experience. Up until this moment, your life has been a monument to personal responsibility, which is merely the ego's burden. You have believed it was your responsibility to heal yourself, to prosper yourself, to save yourself. But I am here to tell you that your only responsibility is to be a transparency through which the divine can flow. Your only work is to get yourself out of the way. Think of a window. Does the window strain to let in the light? Does it struggle to push the darkness out? No. Its entire purpose is to be clean and clear. Its very nature is to be an open space. The light does the rest. The light displaces the darkness effortlessly, not by fighting it, but by being what it is. Our surrender is that process of cleaning the window. It is the stilling of our own mental and emotional dust so that the light of the Christ, the infinite invisible, can pour through without obstruction, illuminating, warming and transforming all that it touches. This alignment is not a passive state, it is a state of supreme receptivity. It is an active yielding. It is the be still and know made manifest in your consciousness. It is in this stillness that a great transfer of authority occurs. You are no longer the actor on the stage, desperately trying to remember your lines. You become the instrument through which the music is played. You are not the source of the power, but the conduit for it. In practical terms, this means that when a problem presents itself, be it a pain in the body, a fear in the mind, or a conflict in your world, you do not meet it with a plan of attack. You meet it with a deep, inner quiet. You turn away from the frantic search for a solution out there, and you turn within to the very center of your being, where the I that is you and the I that is God are one. You acknowledge the appearance, but you do not grant it reality. You then stand as a witness, and you wait. You listen. You do not ask for a specific outcome, for that would be the ego trying to dictate terms to God. You simply open a space for the divine impulse to make itself known. You are aligning your being with the only power that is, and in that alignment, a right activity will unfold. Not your activity, but God's activity. The right thought will come, the right word will be spoken, the right action will be taken, what it will flow through you. You will know it is not of your personal self, for it will be accompanied by a profound sense of peace and an absence of personal pride or ownership. This conscious alignment, this active yielding, marks the critical shift from outer striving to inner listening. The entire orientation of your life turns 180 degrees. You are no longer facing the world of effects, attempting to push and pull at its forms. You are now turning your back, as it were, on the panorama of problems, and you are facing the source. This is the true meaning of prayer. It is not a petition where you bring a list of requests to a distant monarch. It is the practice of inner listening, of cultivating a silence so profound that the still, small voice can be heard not as a sound, but as a knowing. The human scene, with all its demands and alarms, begins to lose its authority over you. It does not disappear, but it ceases to be the command center of your existence. You are no longer its servant, reacting to every stimulus. You are learning to abide in a realm of causation, and from that vantage point, the world of effects is seen for what it is, a passing show, a shadow cast by a greater reality. This inner listening is an art that requires a profound re-education of our attention. Our attention has been captured since birth by the senses. We believe what we see, we react to what we hear, we are governed by what we feel. To listen inwardly is to withdraw this investment of attention from the external and to reinvest it in the invisible, spiritual substance within. It is to sit as one would sit in a quiet room waiting for a beloved friend, not with frantic anticipation, but with a serene and confident expectation. You are not waiting for words necessarily. You are waiting for a feeling, a conviction, a sense of presence, a sudden clarity, or a dissolving of fear. This is how the Word of God is made flesh in your experience. It comes as an impartation, a direct infusion of truth that corrects the appearance without any struggle on your part. A financial fear may simply dissolve, not because the bank account has changed, but because a deep, unshakable sense of sufficiency has risen from within to meet it. A bodily pain may vanish, not because you fought it, but because the awareness of wholeness flooded your consciousness and left no room for the testimony of the senses. This is the great secret behind all spiritual healing. It is never a matter of fixing a broken body or a bad situation. It is always a shift in consciousness from the appearance to the reality. The healer, the practitioner of this truth, is not a fixer. He is an anchor. He is one who, through his own disciplined practice of inner listening, has established his consciousness in the truth of being, and he holds that state of awareness until the harmony which was always present is revealed on the external screen of life. He does not send power to the patient. He knows there is only one life, and that life is the patient's true being. His work is to know this so completely, so unequivocally, that the patient's false belief in separation and sickness is corrected by the sheer power of this realized truth. The appearance must yield to the greater conviction of reality. When your consciousness is filled with the truth of wholeness, there is no mental or emotional space for the belief in sickness to inhabit. It is not destroyed, it is starved into nothingness for lack of attention. Your very being becomes a denial of its validity, not through combat, but through embodying a higher fact, of course. Here is the expansion of your fifth keynote, continuing the flow directly from the previous section. This understanding brings us to the final, and perhaps most liberating, revelation: the dissolution of the illusion of a separate problem solver. Throughout this entire journey, we have been operating under a fundamental misapprehension. We have believed in the reality of a tripartite world. Here I am, a separate entity, there is the problem, a separate condition, and between us lies the gulf that must be crossed by my effort, my understanding, my spiritual practice. But this entire triad is a single, unified illusion. It is the dream itself. There is not a you and a problem, any more than there is a wave and the ocean. The wave is the ocean in expression. To believe the wave is separate and must solve its own wetness is the height of folly. Your sense of a self that is apart from God, from infinite being, is the only problem there has ever been. The appearance of lack, of sickness, of conflict, are merely the shadows cast by this central, foundational error of separation. When you are still, when you have surrendered the tools of the fixer and have turned within to listen, you are not waiting for God to cross the gap and fix the separate problem. You are, in that sacred silence, allowing the awareness of your true self to dawn, the self that has never been for a single moment separated from the all in all. In that awareness, the separate that was trying to manage everything simply evaporates like a mist in the rising sun. What remains is the pure I am, the Christ of your being, which is one with the Father. From this realized consciousness, there is no problem there to be solved. There is only the infinite adjustment of the divine harmony expressing itself. The appearance that once seemed so solid and threatening is now seen as a misperception, a ripple on the surface of a vast and tranquil ocean. The correction does not happen to the appearance. What the correction is the shift in your own awareness that reveals the appearance as insubstantial. This is the meaning of the Master's statement, "Resist not evil." He was not advising passive acceptance of negative conditions. He was revealing the ultimate metaphysical law. To resist something is to grant it a reality it does not possess. You cannot fight a shadow, you can only turn on the light. When you stop resisting the problem, which means when you stop seeing it as a problem separate from your own consciousness, you withdraw the power you have given it. The problem was never an independent entity, it was a thought form, a belief held within the very mind that now seeks to be free of it. It is like a bad dream. Within the dream, the monster is very real and terrifying. You can run, you can hide, you can fight it. But the moment you awaken, you do not have to destroy the monster. It simply ceases to be, because its substance was only the stuff of the dream. Your awakening is its disappearance. Your realization of oneness is the dissolution of every seeming problem, for in oneness there is no other to oppose you. The harmony that manifests is not a new creation, it is the eternal reality of your being, now recognized and experienced. This brings us to the final and most glorious principle, the activity of grace. When the separate, problem-solving I is relinquished, a vacuum is created in consciousness. Nature and spirit abhor a vacuum. The space you have cleared through your surrender, through your inner stillness, does not remain empty. It is instantly filled by a presence, a power, or an intelligence that you did not create and cannot direct. This is the incoming tide of the divine, what we may call the activity of grace. It is important to understand that grace is not a reward for good behavior or successful spiritual practice. It is the natural, inevitable consequence of getting yourself out of the way. It is the sun shining the moment the clouds part. You did not create the sun, you simply stopped obstructing it. All the power, all the wisdom, all the love that you were previously striving to generate from your limited human resources was always present, waiting for an opening. Your surrender is that opening. This is why your life changes not through your effort, but through this conscious relinquishment. The moment you stop trying to fix it, you create the condition for grace to operate. And grace does not work on your timetable or according to your plans. It is a law of adjustment, of harmonization, that operates from the level of cause. It does not merely patch the broken, it reveals the inherent wholeness that was there all along. Where you saw a financial problem, grace may not drop a bag of money at your door. Instead, it may dissolve the fear and scarcity consciousness that colored your perception, and in that new-found clarity, a right idea is born, a forgotten resource is remembered, or a new door opens that you were previously too panicked to see. Where you saw a sick body, grace may not fight the disease, but it will flood your awareness with such a palpable sense of life and wholeness that the condition, which is rooted in a belief of separation and limitation, simply has no foundation left upon which to stand. It is not attacked, it is outshone. This is the ultimate secret. Your life is not your project to manage. It is God's activity to express. You are the location where this divine event is taking place. Your entire purpose is to be a conscious witness to this glory, a willing instrument for this harmony. The striving, the worrying, the fixing, these were the clouds you yourself had gathered. The stillness, the surrender, the listening, this is the simple, courageous act of allowing the wind of spirit to scatter them. The peace you seek, the supply you need, the health that is your divine inheritance. These are not items to be acquired. They are the very nature of the grace that flows when you are no longer standing in the river, trying to build your own dam. Your only work, your only responsibility, is to consciously consent to this flow, to agree with this divine activity, and to recognize that every problem was ever only a call to deepen that consent, to widen that opening, until nothing of the personal self remains to interrupt the infinite and perfect operation of the One.